Okay, so here is another episode of Binder that is blind indie novel dates for your next entertaining read. Now, this date is urban fantasy, paranormal, modern fantasy, Asian fictional literature, new adult, and young adults. It is vampire, werewolves, werehyenas, elves, and witches. So, if any of those sound intriguing to you, then let's get started. And if you're watching on the YouTubes and not just the podcast, you'll notice that I am wearing the same thing as my last episode. And that is because my last episode, I listened to someone else narrate and then had this anchoring to pick another author where I got to do a cold read on the book. So now I get to do that. So I am going to get started on that. Let me bring that up. Okay, here we go. Cold read. Chapter 1, June 19th, 8 a.m. I finished drying and curling my hair. After applying makeup, I put on the dress that my mom had picked out for my graduation ceremony. It was a t-shirt style, but the back was laced and it was form-fitting and flowed out of my hips. I sighed as I glanced at my reflection, approving of it before heading downstairs. "Ready to graduate?" my dad asked, popping his head out from the kitchen. I smiled at him as I slipped on my white flats that matched my dress. I had my cell phone and keys in hand as I pulled the door open. "I'll see you guys there." I closed the door and locked it behind me as Alexis came over to me with a smile on her face. She'd been my best friend since kindergarten, and not long after that, her parents bought a house right next to me. I'm half Filipina, but she's full. Both of her parents left their home country. Both of their both of her parents left their home country for a better life. Her hair is the same glossy black as my mom's and just as straight. She was wearing a white dress like mine as we walked to my car without saying a word to one another. "Did you accept that author for the university yet?" she asked me as she buckled up. "Yeah," I answered, starting up my car. My dad said I should have waited. My dad said I should have waited for the other replies, but I was just way too excited. I laughed as I backed up and headed off to our school. "What about you?" "I'm going to wait a bit," she said with a sigh, and I could tell she wasn't telling me something else. "Why not?" I asked. "It's a good school." "Yeah, I know." I could hear the frown in her voice. "There's just a lot going on lately. I'll tell you later," she promised as I pulled up to school. She promised as I pulled up to the school. Luckily, we made it before it got too crowded. My parents were going to have a hard time finding a parking space if they didn't leave soon. We both got out of the car and pulled on our caps and gowns. Excuse me. We looped arms as we walked into our high school for the last time as students. 11 a.m. It was time for the ceremony to start, and it was different than the sports ceremony where I got my certificate after so many years of playing softball. That was how I was able to get into a good university, but my GPA helped as well. It wasn't as high as Alexis, but I could see her waving up ahead of me, but it was definitely above average, thankfully. All of the students walked down the line. Each of us received our diploma from the assistant principal, and Alexis gave her speech. Then we were officially high school graduates. After the madness of getting out of the theater, which I guess the school had substantial funding for, as big as it was, we found one another and then located our parents. I hugged her parents as my parents hugged her. "We'll meet you at the restaurant at 9. Oh, that was her dad speaking. We'll meet you at the restaurant at 9, okay?" my dad asked, and I nodded. Alexa and I bailed out of the school as free women, or at least we were free until our mandatory dinner celebration. "What do you want to do?" she asked as she pulled off her gown and tossed the cap into my back seat. Mall? I got a little bit of graduation money, I said, wiggling my brows. She laughed but agreed, so I drove off to the mall. Together, we spent hours window shopping and reminiscing about how time had flown by during high school and how excited we were to start university. Eventually, it was time to go home and get ready for the family dinner. She waved at me as she walked across the lawn to her place. Our parents didn't seem to be home, which was fine with me, as it gave me time to unwind before I headed back out. I lay on my bed for a moment, and I was ready to go to sleep right then and there. It didn't feel like I had shut my eyes for that long, but my phone rang. I noticed the time. Crap! I jumped out of bed. Hello? Hey. Oh, so um, is that, oh no, that's her friend. Hey, I'm going to head over there right now. Your mom and dad said they are already there, Alexis told me. Crap, I said as I slipped on another dress my mom wanted me to wear. She had picked out a green dress with sleeves, and it was loose, flowing to my mid calves. I picked out floral flats and rushed downstairs to the restaurant. 10 p.m. I want you home by 11 o'clock, my dad told me. We were all standing out in the parking lot as the restaurant closed their doors. All right, Dad, I assured him. I'll be home before then. I then turned on my heels and headed out the door with Alexis. She paused after looking over my shoulder to our parents. Hey, she paused with a frown. I actually have to go home tonight. Oh, it's fine. I'm wiped after today. I'm just going to the park. I'll text you when I get home, I promised as I waved goodbye to her and headed to my car. I drove to the park and there was a guy out there too. Out to contemplate life too, huh? I thought to myself. With a small life with a small laugh, I went to the swing one over from him. I went to the swing one over from him. He's really cute, I thought as I started to swing. He had to be in his early 20s. He was tall, with slender build, had messy blonde hair, and under the light, I could see his eyes were either blue or green. You often dress up to go to the park? He asked me, and I laughed as I stopped swinging. Yes, I replied. It's all the rage. He smiled at me, and I felt my heart beat faster. I never really had the time to date with my mom pushing for better grades and my dad encouraging me to play softball. Luckily, I did well in both. My name is Cedric, he introduced himself. I smiled at him as I dangled in the swing. Audrey, I answered. Do you normally come to the playground at night? I do when I have a lot of time on my hands. We then sat in the quiet for a moment before he got up. I looked at him, then stood up. His height made him tower over me, but that was nothing new for me. Well, I should be heading home. Oh, sorry, that was him. Well, I should be heading home. The warden will be after me soon, he joked. I actually should be heading back as well. I frowned. I didn't want to go home. We looked at each other, and I decided, your eyes are definitely blue. He laughed. Then I realized I had said that out loud. Is that what you were thinking about? He asked me, and I blushed. That's my bad, I replied. Uh, I'll see you around. He smiled back at me. You bet. He waved goodbye at me as we walked off. I watched him go for a second before walking over to my car and driving home. I didn't even see the deer run out in front of my car before I spun out of control and into the tree. I tried to open my door, but the tree was smashed into it. My arm hurt. My forehead felt wet. Suddenly, Something was yanked from me. I screamed as the sudden movement irritated my injuries. I fell out of my car, but someone caught me. I landed in strong arms, then looked up to see who saved me, and the face was recognizable. Cedric. I didn't think I would be seeing you this soon. I, sorry, that was her saying. I didn't think I'd be seeing you this soon, I slurred out, and Cedric shushed me. It's okay, Audrey. I have you now. He carried me off in his arms. Okay, so we got good towards the end there. I was a little bit bored with the getting ready scene, but you always got to set the stage and, get acquainted with the characters. But it looks like we got into an accident and there's a studly man involved who whisks away and saves her. And he's probably got some sort of paranormal, magical, like being type of thing. Because, I mean, why else would he be there when she had an accident being all stalkerish? But I'd say that's a pretty good start. What do you guys think? So that was our blind date. Let's find out who this was. So this was P.K. Reeves. The title of the work was Air, the Lineage series. Again, this was urban fantasy, paranormal, modern fantasy, Asian fictional literature, like new/young adult, vampire, werewolves, werehyenas, elves, witches. I'm going to guess perhaps the guy Cedric is possibly a vampire. Maybe he's a werewolf. I don't know because technically we didn't know whether or not that was a full moon or not on the night that they met at the playground. Anyways, if you were intrigued about this book and this sounds like something that you want to delve into and kind of find more about, definitely look at those links in the show notes. Follow this author on pkreevesauthor.com. Link in the show notes. You like this blind date, check it out. Also, link, subscribe, share this podcast and or YouTube video with people so that we can share the indie love with more readers, more people, and, support indies. This was I did have some stumbles in there because like when you're cold reading, you kind of you try to read ahead as much as possible while you're reading, but sometimes your brain just kind of fogs and then you accidentally read a line that should have been like the male version or read the line in the male when it should have been the female. So I had a few stumbles in there. But as you can see, that's one of the reasons why it actually takes a lot longer to narrate an audiobook than simply just reading the book. There's a lot of going back and rereading a line, or even some lines in there. I would have reread even some of those lines even better with different emotion. When you cold read, you don't necessarily know how you should say something right away, so you just kind of do a lot of guessing. But you can comment and let me know how you think I did on the chapter read, whether or not you liked the book. I guess I should try to wrap this up. This has been another episode of Binder. I really need to memorize this so that I don't bug you guys with my word vomit. Anyways, continue reading this book if you liked it. Again, that was, let me grab that. That was P.K. Reeves. And yes, I do have permission from all these authors to be able to read their stuff. So disclaimer there. And oh God, how do we end this again? Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I said that. If you are an indie author of fantasy and want your book featured on Binder, then there's also a link in the show notes for that. Fill out a guest form. Thank you for listening. My name is Stevie, and this has been a blind indie novel date to find your next fantastical read. And I'll try to be better next time. I'll talk to you later, guys. Where's that button? Oh, embarrassing myself. God. Come on, Stevie.